Okay, I'll just give a few words as current president. In 2020, we put in place Zoom as a way of keeping the club together. Somebody isn't on mute. Let me see. Barry, Sandy. I'm hearing a lot of surface noise. Anyways, we use Zoom as a way to keep together and communicate with each other. And it's also a good tool. We've been able to do presentations. And for a lot of us, I mean, in the winter months, it's certainly been a nice way of doing business, of coming down, turning on your computer or laptop or whatever, and seeing the other members and presentations and seeing what other people in the club have been doing. And who would have thought that in 2021, we'd be doing the same thing? But I think it's been a good way to keep the club together and acknowledge some of the participations in volunteering and environment that we have still continued to proceed as a club and do good work. So I think overall, Zoom has been great for us. And as we move forward, John Francis and I have been looking at different places. Unfortunately, we haven't nailed it down yet, but I'm sure that in January, we will come to some conclusions on the accommodations where we can call home, and we'll be able to meet in some form. I think a hybrid of Zoom might be a reality where we have older members that can't get to the meetings but still want to keep in touch, and then they can participate on the social events. They may not be able to meet on a regular basis every Tuesday, but they certainly be able to come to the social events. I mean, we've had some great fly tying sessions that Dave has coordinated. They've been great. Environment, I'll let Dave and Mick and Bill talk to this after I'm finished, but the environment, Mick has gone, as he always does, a great job moving that bar forward and keeping things moving. We contribute a fair amount of money in our sense. It's small in the big picture, but it allows us to help projects by getting them, develop them, and getting them by the feasibility stage and getting them into the proposal stage whereby they can ask for funding. The other thing is Bill and volunteering and Tony, the activity at the different events such as the hatchery and the regional conservation clubs. So Mick, do you want to say a few words on the environmental side?
Sure. Just so I'm clear, this is the AGM or the weekly meeting right now?
No, this is the AGM is being recorded.
Okay, good. So I got it. Yeah. Well, you all got that one pager I put out, which was the year in review and where we hope to go next year. I think most of you have read it. If you haven't, I think it's a useful kind of checklist of what we've done and where we may be going next year. I kind of like having the AGM late this time of year because it's kind of like making New Year's resolutions, and the year in review, for me, it's quite timely. I'm not going to repeat what I've already written there, except to make a few overall observations related to the club as a whole and the conservation effort, and a couple of words related to the legacy fund decisions that support this work as well. So, you know, may you live in interesting times. What I wanted to do this year was not just to highlight what I've been up to, which you hear about every week and you get periodic emails. I wanted to really look at the bigger picture of conservation, which for us is particularly the hatchery. And although I've never been there, certainly I've followed it really quite closely, and I'm in touch with Peter McCulley periodically. And also the supporting activities of the kind of speakers we have and the knowledge that gets passed around through people's readings and subscriptions to magazines and webinars. So it's very easy to get into a kind of overload situation. And from time to time that I feel the same way. So right now I'm in a kind of contemplative end of the year mode. I'll just make a few comments. It was very interesting to me that Bill sent this morning the BC Salmon Strategy, and I took a quick look at it. It's got all the right buzzwords and money coming through to back it up. It's got, excuse me, too many papers. 4 pillars: conservation and stewardship, including targeted science and more integrated data. That's number 1 pillar. 2, salmon enhancement, which is to a fair degree hatcheries. Number 3, harvest transformation, which is to do with the catch allocation. And 4, integration and collaboration, which talks quite a lot about partnerships. So what we do is in partnership with larger organizations, and you can see that as a theme running through the last 3 years of local conservation work here. Helping those groups remain strong and sustainable is very, very important, because we're a relatively small club and we're not the only players at the hatchery. So everything we do is incremental and supportive. Where do we go next year? Well, the other piece that Bill sent out this morning from Island Fisherman magazine was on hatcheries per se. And this is going to be my kind of segue into my wrap-up comments here. This is a direct quote from Tom Davis's piece, at the very end of that. Many of the same human-driven pressures continue to erode the basic needs of salmon and the resilience of salmon habitats, in spite of regulatory measures to mitigate these activities. Furthermore, these problems are now accelerating due to climate change, as Varney notes. Whether we have hatcheries or not might be irrelevant in 50 years, given the downward trajectories of important salmon stocks. It seems to me we are past the point of relying on habitat restoration and nature to rebuild stocks for many parts of the province. The benefits of that hatchery technologies currently offer, with the promise of more advances to come, suggest strongly that the hatchery role is complementary, strategic, and a necessary foundation for salmon recovery. I would extend those thoughts to actually all of the species we're interested in. We're a fishing club. We're fish-centric. We think not only about salmon, but all the stock trout. Some people think about bass. Some people even think about carp in terms of the recreational fishery. So where we put our efforts going forward is really important. And after the last flooding episodes, I think what I've been encouraging all these groups to do that we liaise with, including Polis at UVic, who's now a leader province-wide in some of this area, is to really take a cool, calm look at really what we're doing and where we get the biggest bang for the buck. So that leads me into some final comments about the Legacy Fund. I was encouraged to go and find some more applicants. I found more applicants. It's obvious that the ask is $4,000 and we only have about 6 left. So my approach to that basically would be, we only actually have one commitment on the table, and it's to the urban salmon trends analysis. And that's the most important project. And I sincerely hope that Pacific Salmon Foundation funds it and that our $1,000 commitment is going to be called in. The key word in going forward is adaptive management, including adaptive financial management. So I think as a strategy with the remaining funds in our legacy fund, apart from ways to build it up again, is simply to take the attitude that we have one commitment. It may or may not be called. We've got another donation possibility to the net fund. We've got a couple more potential commitments. Let's just do adaptive management, make a note of them, look at when the money is called. If we can't support an individual initiative, if it is called, like the Craig flower, we have a good track history of approaching Esquimalt anglers, Victoria Fish and Game, and other groups to go find $1,000. So I'm really not super concerned about a great deal of fuss or worry about our legacy fund. It's an important part of what we do. We'll continue to have good financial management and decision making, but we don't have to decide exactly what we do with it. We know what the requests are. We know if they're going to be called upon, and we just have to help see that some of these things actually do get funded and participate as best we can. On a personal note, I'm trying to keep my health in good shape because that's critical to everything for all of us. And so far, so good. However, you know, I've been in the club a decade now. I did about 5 years of running the speakers program. I've done about 8 years of doing what we're doing on the elements of the conservation program, and it actually is it's becoming burdensome because there's just so much going on. So that's why the key words for me are strategic collaboration, what scientifically based decision making as far as the stewardship sector locally has any influence over multiple levels of government and large sums of money which are starting to appear. So the challenges are very, very great. The development pressures are not getting any smaller. And elsewhere in the province, oil, gas, pipelines, forestry are all having an impact on the fishery recreationally, whether it be a fresh or a saltwater one. And I don't even make the distinction between fresh and saltwater, especially with a Dramina species. I don't, I worry as much about the estuaries as I do about the streams and what's going out on the high seas. So I think, as I said in my report, we're punching way above our weight. We are highly respected. We conduct ourselves, I believe, very professionally and diligently. And we just have to keep on doing what we're doing within an aging volunteer workforce and a limited supply of money, and keep our health up, and above all, keep our spirits up, keep having fun, and keep emphasizing the social elements of the club. So I'm happy to take any questions on my report. And the only footnote I have is that this Friday, the knowledgeable people, about probably 16 of us, half of whom are stewards and half of whom are government, have the privilege, quote unquote, of looking at the draft Arcadis report on the implementation of oxygenation and aeration at Elk Beaver Lake. It's a 4 meg file. It's about 40 pages. Dave and I have looked at it. I've submitted preliminary comments. I'm following the meetings. I will do a little report on the highlights and make accessible this draft document. So we are making some progress, and there are a few good signs about the Elk Lake fishing dock, but we're still waiting on Gaming Commission. And frankly, I just put a phone call into him with Rotary to maybe check with the gaming on, because they seem to be late in making their decisions. And Western Diversification doesn't even have a deadline for allocating money from their funding that we were after. So yeah, it's dealing with government and funding and all the rest of it. So overall, I think for me, it's been a very productive, a very positive year. And the environment has been kind of ironically through funding, COVID funding, one of the beneficiaries of COVID, one of the few beneficiaries after a pretty rough year in 2020, 21, when the money started to kick in, really kick things up a notch. That's my perspective. Where we go now with all of the demands on federal and provincial money, it's all about resilience. Resilience is the key word, or whatever that means. And resilience starts at home. It's for every individual to be as self-sufficient and resilient and healthy as possible, and make the contribution to these causes to the best of their ability, keeping in mind their family situations. So that's enough of me spouting off this morning. I'll give this one more year, not at this pace, but that's my kind of take of where we're at and where we're going with our partners on this stuff. I'm happy to take any questions.
Mick, well done, as ever. Thorough. Your analysis of what's been going on is superb. Your ongoing energy, and I fully understand that at some point you, like everybody else, has to take a step back. Your comments about everybody staying healthy and the fact that we don't want to lose track of the social in the golden rods and reels is really important. And I just personally want to thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
I second that.
Third it.
Thank you.
That's unanimous, yes.
Amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Dave,
sure.
any other things of Mick?
I reviewed that Elk Lake report and some other work that he's been doing on crake flower, and Mick has been able to engage people that have the skills that are necessary to help support what we're doing. My neighbor's been one of them, and certainly that's been able to give us a higher profile than might otherwise have been. He's been able to connect with people who have a reputation and a professional approach to this stuff. And I think that's what helps us carry above our weight in terms of getting things done.
Very true.
Can I make just a couple of positive comments on the conservation end of things? Now, I may not have read this correctly, but if anybody could correct me, I think that you know Chris Boss, who gave a presentation to this club a couple of weeks back. I think he's been elected as the Sports Fishing Advisory Board chairman.
Correct.
That's right.
Which I think might be quite positive.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing, I just read about an anonymous donor who had kicked in a pile of money. And I know some of us have kicked in a bit of money to that approach to get that big acreage out near, what's it called? Viaduct Flats. And it's a fantastic piece of property. And it looks like it's a for sure go ahead now.
Yeah, Mike, that's a very important point, and I won't go on too long, but the whole business of property acquisition, while it's still out there, is very important. The parks people have been onto that, and that Mountain View property, for instance, Mountain Road property, did get
Yes.
saved through HAT and CRD and others. So what's happening now, because we did meet with the CRD just last week, is that they're actually finally starting to staff up to a better level to actually manage these parks properties. And Jill Robinson in over the next 3 years will actually get 3 or 4 or 5 new staff phased in. So there are, again, some positive signs there on the acquisition. And so strategic acquisitions around wetlands and riparian zones and estuary areas are really, really important. And the other one, which we haven't touched on, and that's a work in progress, is obviously the First Nations involvement, that everybody's trying to work with that as well.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Mick.
Thank you.
Dave, do you want to say something about the fly tying and your participation in the club's participation throughout the last year?
Dave, I have to leave the meeting as soon as I can.
Okay.
Can I do the financial report and then?
Okay, go
I was
ahead. Yeah.
holding you to last, right? Anyways, we can
Yeah.
do that now.
Okay. All right. Bob.
And if
do
you
we-
leave early, we can reassume that you were going to run for the financial position,
Stayed on
right?
for one last year, yes. Bob, do we have a speaker today? I don't want to go on too long here. Bob? You're on mute, Bob.
He shook his
No.
head.
No speaker today. The next
Oh.
speaker is January the 7th. So
Okay.
I know we normally don't meet that soon in January, but just to remind you, we're going to meet in January the 7th. I believe that's Tuesday. So that's our next speaker.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen in a moment. When I get the file up on my screen, and I thought I sent out a financial report yesterday, but it turned out I sent the wrong darn file. So I sent the right one this morning about half an hour before the meeting, I'm afraid. So I'll send out what I sent out. I'll put on my screen rather what I did today. So just a moment.
Bob, it's January 4th or the 11th, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't have my list with me, so it's somewhere there. I'd have to get, I'll send a message out.
Okay, so can everyone see my screen? It's got the financial statements on it.
It's up there, John.
Okay, I don't know if you can read it. I can't get its whole screen because of the stuff on the left. Let me see, can I get rid of that stuff on the left? I don't believe I can. Anyway, I hope you can read this. So this is the financial statement for the year end October 31st. We have $10,243 and $33 in the bank in the checking account. We have $809 in the Elk Lake account, although there is an amount of $812.74 left from the Thrifty Foods money. So I'm transferring that in. I transferred it in November. So the actual Elk Lake dock account now is $1,622, and the checking account is $9,421, and the legacy account has $5,755, for a total of $16,799. Whereas if you look immediately to the right of that number on the total assets, we had 15,817 at the end of the previous year. So we're slowly going up. Well, we made a cash surplus of $981 for this year, primarily because we didn't pay any rent because we didn't have any meetings. Our liabilities were at the beginning of the year were 15,817, and with the $981 that we had a cash surplus this year, the net equity balance, the total liability and equity balances the total assets. Was a question coming in? No. Okay, so if in the highlighted part in yellow at the left-hand side, about halfway down the screen, it says income breakdown. So this is breaks down our operations and the Elk Lake account and the legacy account. So in operations, we had an income of 5,142, and that's less the GIC, which we have to transfer. Net income from Elk Lake was zero. We didn't spend or gain any money on the Elk Lake account, except for the thrifty food money, which isn't showing in this figure. The net income after that was $509, and the net income for the GIC was GIC was 3,652, and it's now zero, so that was a loss. And $509 for the legacy account. I'll go over that shortly, but we spent $2,000, but we gained about $1,500 from various activities. So that's the balance sheet. So we're in a healthy position as usual. On the right half, on the upper statement, you'll see the breakdown for the fiscal year of the revenue and expense items, and they are compared with the previous 3 years' actuals. So our revenue was the best we've had because we had more members this year. We sold $271 worth of flies and fly boxes. The rainy day fund was the GIC fund. So we got that in as revenue once we transferred it to the checking account. And the 50 Smile card, we got $112, which we did put in the GIC. Sorry, not in the GIC, in the Elk Lake Dock account. Fairway card brought in 214, although I might say there's probably more than that. I picked up the mail and we had 5 months worth of mail. I'm sure there's a Fairway check in there somewhere. Coffee was just miscellaneous donations, actually, $78. Whereas if you can look back in 2019, we gained $763 from our coffee activities. The GIC was zeroed out and no longer exists, and that was 3,652 negative revenue. Elk Lake zero revenue. Legacy account, as I said before, expenditure of $509 for the year. On the expense side, computer and office was very low, just sort of maintenance items. We bought fly boxes and stickers, which is where the $422 comes from. Nothing on newsletter or rack cards this year. Membership expenses were $1,603, which was mostly Bcwf. Telecoms was the hosting Zoom and also our website activities, 339. Social events, we spent $424. library, we spent 49. One-time events was $200, which we spent on the Elk Lake Dock report, which actually should have come out of the Elk Lake account now I think about it. So I'll do something about that this year. So that's balance sheet and income statement. Any questions on that? Hearing none. So this is the year-end legacy account report. On the upper half is this last year. On the lower half are the previous years, just the summary totals. So this year, as you can see, on the expense side, we spent $1,000 to World Fisheries Trust and $1,000 to the Peninsula Stream Society. And that was for, somebody help me out here. Was it the Watershed Initiative? No. Nick?
Yeah, it was for the Small Watersheds Initiative. They're joint partners in it, and there were various applications for money. And so the fair allocation was to send $1,000 to each of them. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. On the income side, there was a mistake in the previous year of $110. That's where that accrual comes from. Sale of gear this year, we raised $930, primarily early in the fiscal year. We had also had another auction for $446. And we had 218 in May, $218. So the total income was $1,490. Total expenditures $2,000. So the net decrease was $509. Okay, so you can see down below primarily where the money went and where it came from in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in 6 years. So I wasn't the treasurer in 2015, so I don't know what we spent there. And what's going on here? I'm looking at the very bottom. It says 2018-19. Yeah, that's just a duplicate.
That's what it looks like. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So there we are. So our legacy money we've spent this last year, $2,000 for the watershed. Previous years we spent in 2020, we spent $200 for the Colquitt's fence repair, $500 for the Morton sea lice research, $1,000 for the net pen, and $1,000 for Peachy World Fisheries Trust. And you can see to the right, in 2018-19, World Fisheries Trust got $2,000, and in 2017-18, they got $1,000 from us. And in 2018, the Peninsula Streams got 500, and I'm not quite sure what the miscellaneous $99 was in 2018. And then in 2016, we spent very little money, just the 2 students primarily is what we spent. So we've raised and spent quite a bit over the years. So that stands as a history for those on the legacy committee. So any questions on that? Okay, that's me.
Thanks, John, and thanks for doing that over the years. And
Yeah,
for
I'd
next
like to, can I just say thank you for the short and long-term picture. It's very interesting. Thank you,
Yes.
John.
Okay,
John, I'll move the treasurer's report be adopted as presented.
We have a seconder.
I'll second.
is anyone
Very good.
keeping?
It's being recorded.
Okay,
Yeah. So all your words are down verbatim.
okay.
the speaker program, Bob, I can always tell when we have a speakers program because our normal meeting attendance goes way up.
Yeah, well, I think last year was a pretty good year.
It was an excellent year.
You know, we've had a variety of speakers. I rely pretty heavily on you, Vic, for our speakers. And I think January and February, I don't have the list with me right now, but we have a few of UVic speakers for January and February. So I thought I might contact the First Nations people, the Lekwungen people, to come and give us a talk on the history of their people here. I thought that would be, I think they'd be more than willing to come. I know they've come before. So I depend a lot on our own membership too, to seek out speakers as well. So I look forward to next year.
Thank you, Bob, for the great speakers you've had this year. I know, as I said before, I can really tell when there's a good speaker on. We get over 20 some people.
Well, that's great.
And the
yeah.
comments backs are excellent.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Good. Bill, do you want to talk about the volunteer program?
Just unmuting myself.
Okay.
Okay. So the hatchery, we've been taking eggs on every Tuesday morning. That's why I haven't been here. Total, we finished taking eggs on Saturday. Total of over 190,000 coho eggs compared to about 110,000 last year. So we really had a wonderful coho return. It's the largest coho return that anyone can remember in the last 40 years or so. So coho were really up. On the other hand, all along the West Coast, the chum return has been down. We've taken about 30,000 chum eggs compared to 300,000 last year. However, we do have enough eggs for the school program and for the Boker Creek initiative. Colquitt's camera, creek camera, the camera is ready for installation. We're just waiting for BC Hydro to hook up the electrics to where the camera is going to be. And that's an ongoing problem. ACS, I provided you with the draft minutes from our last ACS meeting. The concerns over DFO's involvement in BC salmon production, it goes on and on. The Pacific Fishing Alliance, which is, I think Chris Boss is also the chair of that, is getting going, and we might look at making a small donation to them. They're having a unity meeting, and I think I sent the information out on that. It's a virtual meeting. They want as many people there as they can, and they've asked DFO not to attend, and they're hoping to get some, well, unity in presenting to DFO and possibly the government. The ACS is a very strong supporter of PFA. BCWF, the Region 1 AGM is in March of 2022. The BCWF, so that's the whole provincial AGM, will be in Nanaimo into 2022. And the BCWF have been putting forward a number of initiatives for salmon. And, you know, the hunting is more the BCWF forte, but they're certainly putting more fishing into their meetings. PSS, I pass along all the volunteer opportunities. I encourage everybody to become a member of PSS. It's $10 a year. And I also encourage everybody to take advantage of the volunteer opportunities. Some of them are very strenuous, but others are not so strenuous. And you learn a lot. I mean, that's the bottom line. PSS has hired on 3 new staff. So they're really into fundraising. So I've committed the club to providing 3 to 4 boxes of flies, but I think we discussed that before. The online PSS virtual auction is beginning the 26th of February. And I'll be sending out the web Zoom or whatever the contact is for there. If anybody has any contacts for corporate sponsorship of PSS, if they would forward them on to me or PSS directly. And then what we're trying to do with PSS is we'll send someone to that corporation to make a presentation about PSS. Yeah, it's important that PSS continue. And by doing that, what we're trying to do is get some corporate funding that goes on and on. We have some in place. We just want to get some more. I think that's pretty much my report.
Well, thank you, Bill.
Any
thanks.
questions?
Just a quick addition, Bill, very thorough report, thank you. It's interesting that the new executive director of BCWF is Jesse Zeman, and he's pretty well regarded. I mean, I've had some interaction, I've read his writings. I believe he's in the Kootenays, and although he is a keen hunter, but he's also a fisherman, I believe. And I think BCWF has been through ups and downs. I would say more downs over the last 4 years. It's been through a lot of staff change. And I think Jesse being in that position with his role in the regions, and especially because he's a strategic guy, he's the one who's been the lead with a few other people on dealing with the BC government and their priorities and all the rest of it. I think we're going to see, well, let's just say I'm optimistic that we're going into a revitalized, less tumultuous period for BCWF, and that bodes well for all of the members and all of the regions.
Yes, the Region 1 is happy that Jesse is there. And also the relationship between the BCWF board and the staff is becoming better. Staff have been making decisions that the board haven't been really aware of, and that's being reined in. Yeah.
Very good. And thanks to Tony and Brian for their work and volunteering at the hatchery and all those that volunteer throughout the year. Wendy and Pat, do you want to make any comments on Sunshine?
Is Pat there, Peter? Okay. You're muted, honey.
I'm
There she
here,
is.
but I'm on the other side of the table making up a card for John Edge,
I don't know if everybody knows.
because Jesse just died.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how many of you remember John Edge. He's an honorary member, but a big participant in the club, past president, etc. And his wife just passed. So thanks, Pat, for making a card.
Yep.
Anybody else got anything for Sunshine? We need to know if things are going on. We can't help if we don't know. Okay.
Well, thanks, Wendy and Pat, for your work in Sunshine. We appreciate that. especially the kind of, we call it corporate knowledge of people that have been here before some of us. We need some long-termers. Anybody else got any comments before we move the meeting to the
Oh,
election box?
I still have fly tying to talk about.
Oh, geez, Dave, yeah, you passed, you
Yeah.
went and started talking about the environment. Got
That's
me-
okay.
Yeah. Go
Um,
for it.
Over the last year, I estimate we had somewhere between 35 and 40 Zoom sessions on fly tying. And between Florin and me, we've probably tied somewhere on the order of 200 fly patterns in the last 2 years. So this has been a very entertaining and very challenging prospect, but I think it's worked out quite well. I think we'll continue going on in the new year with a Zoom session at least once a month. And I would suspect that we'll try to keep going with the non-Zoom sessions being the in-person sessions. And we'll probably try to rotate those through so the burden doesn't fall on any particular one person to do that. We've been getting somewhere between 6 and 10 people at the in-person sessions. So if you can accommodate 6 or 8 people at your place in a safe way, by all means, let me know, and we'll try to schedule stuff in starting in January. Then as far as the rest of the fly tying goes, if you've got some surplus flies, we have some boxes that we need to donate to. So start accumulating those things, because we'll be asking for whatever you've got. I know if we've tied, for me, having tied probably half of those flies in the last year, it hasn't just been the ones I do during a Zoom session. I usually have 3 or 4 practice ones ahead of time. So I've got an inventory of flies I could start contributing to the cause. But certainly enjoyed doing that this last year, and have really appreciated the attention and the patience that the guys have shown in coming up to the Zoom meetings. It's been a good time.
Thank you very much, Dave. We've appreciated it, and pass along our thanks to Florin.
Will do.
And
Dave,
those,
I'd
And
also
those-
like to add my voice to that, because although it's difficult for me to come in from Sydney to some of your in-person sessions, it's been a lifeblood sometimes during the winter and during this past year to be able to join everybody at a distance and still learn about flies. So thank you very much.
Yes. Welcome.
Dave, have you got an address for John Edge for Pat to send the card to?
No,
you know what? I think that John Francis would have it. I'll send him an email and ask him for it. He keeps a record of all the club members.
I'm
I've
just
got it, Pat. It's
wondering-
okay.
Just
Okay.
wondering if he's still on Camelot.
Yes, he is on
An
Camelot still.
address on Camelot.
Yes, he is.
So you don't need it
That's
from
all I
me.
need to know.
Okay.
No, it's okay.
just an aside on the fly tying, we do have a Zoom session coming up this Saturday.
Very good, Dave.
And we should be well practiced, because we're doing exactly the same flies Wednesday night for the Hague Brown guys. And that's going to be a joint session with the Northern Lights fly fishers in Edmonton. So it should be interesting to see how those guys go off. It'll be quite interesting.
The fly tying has gone international. We've had
Yeah.
people
Well,
from
we
all
did
over.
have a guy from Connecticut for a while, or a friend of Florence. So
Yeah.
interprovincial anyway.
Interesting.
Dave, I've got a little information here. For the bookings for Klux, Zooey and Buttle Lake.
Sure.
Buttle Lake last year was 3 months before, so we'll probably be booking in Buttle Lake in February sometimes for March. And for Klux, Zooey, they've got 2 information here. One is their website gives December 3rd as a booking for Klux, Zooey, but the actual place to go to look for the actual date is on Facebook for Klux, Zooey. And they're announcing January 5th is when you start booking for campsites or whatever you want for Klux, Zooey. So their
Sure.
website's not up to date.
What are the tentative dates for Bottle Lake?
That's to be decided. Last year, I think we went a little bit early, maybe a week later or something like that. But that's to be decided yet.
Thanks.
And Ron, Ron,
Duncan.
anything to mention about freshwater fishing for this last year?
I don't really have much to say other than it's too bad that we haven't been able to get out more often. Although I've been encouraged that the numbers of people who have been continuing to fish well into the fall season and doing well, and particularly Dale with his very successful flies, sharing them with us. That's been greatly appreciated. And maybe we need to twist Dale's arm to become the chair, the freshwater fishing guy next year. Although Sandy's taking it over for this coming year, maybe the year from now you could be an apprentice, Dale, and take over from Sandy a year down the road. Anyway, I was looking forward to doing some getting together in the fall, but it just wasn't possible. So hopefully we can get together in the spring. And don't forget that there's a trip to the interior to Peter Hope Lake coming up in May that some of us are going to be doing, and we would encourage anybody that's interested to contact Sandy or myself to get some details about that. So that's pretty much all I have to say. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, as a club, we all know who likes to fish and get out there. And I mean, I've certainly taken advantage of that and gone on a number of trips with a number of people from the club. And I know other people have and have really enjoyed ourselves. So that's great. Anybody else want to make any comments about last year?
Dave, will there be a follow-up meeting just to regular stuff? Because due to the lack of the minutes, I sent you an email about the mustard seed.
I'm going to mention that before I break for the election of officers.
I just have one more comment, Dave, and that is to thank you for your work as president this year. It's been a very trying time with not being able to get together in person, and you've kept the club together and done an excellent job. So thank you very much.
Here, here.
Thank you.
Yeah, great.
It makes a big difference when you can't actually walk over and talk to a person, but I think this Zoom has allowed us to keep in touch, and we haven't lost the group as a whole. We've kept it together, so that's been great. Anybody else before we?
I've got an unsung hero. Ryan phones me all the time, and I'm very appreciative of that. And he's just a great guy. He can't come to the meetings because he's because he doesn't have a computer, but he takes time every week to give me a phone call. And I think that you should all know that what Ryan does, and it's so important because that's part of being a club.
Yes. And that's why we're striving to get a facility. And it's a good thing we're healthy financially, because as we move forward, when we move and finally find a spot, I know it's going to have some financial impact, not only the move, but the setup. John and I have looked at some facilities, and for example, we looked at the Gordon Head Bowling Club, Lawn Bowling Club. The facility itself, from a meeting room perspective, was great. Zero capacity for storage. And they have, not very flexible for, doing stuff. So they have everything set up the way they want it, and that's the way it is. So, altering something, or not physically altering it, but repurposing something is really not on the table with them. So it was difficult where we were trying to negotiate some place to put a cabinet. And it was just like chasing your tail. Wherever we suggested, oh, no, you can't touch that. There was nothing there. But anyways, we'll keep on it and we'll find us a place, I'm sure, before the end of January. But I do note that there will be will be a financial impact on that move, both physically moving and setting up. So it's good to know that we have some financial capacity. And the auctions have really helped out with our financial picture. So let's continue those for next year.
Dave, I hope you're successful in getting back from Silver Threads the stuff that they absconded with during the move.
John and I will be ruthless.
Good. We need to be. Thank you.
We're more than ticked at.
What is the financial cost of moving there? I mean, we're pretty well going to supply our own vehicles and stuff.
Well, as I said, there's always stuff that we're elderly that we would probably want to hire a couple movers, and I know a couple movers. Mick recommended time movers, and they moved me into this place, and it wasn't that expensive, but it is a cost, and I'm just throwing it out there as something to think about. Also, this time of year, it being the Christmas season and season of giving, Jim reminded me about the mustard seed. And normally we do donations. It's a lot easier when you're all together and everybody puts the money into a hat.
We give them a healthy donation and have for as long as I can remember ourselves. I send a check to them every Christmas.
Yeah, because of I don't want to burden John with, the only feasible way within the club was to send an email to John and John would take it over. John just took off and before I got to this, and I can't ask him. I was going to ask
Dave, excuse me for interrupting, but they have a very good website. It's very easy to donate to.
That's where I was going
on the website.
So I asked members to look at the website and to donate. As Ron said, it's an easy thing to donate to.
The club has also provided a cash donation as well, though. That's what it was really unnerving going down there, to see the people that are in need of help. And, we do a lot for the environment, and surely we can do a lot for people as well. And I was anticipating the club providing a donation.
Well, Jim, I think that can be accomplished without having to necessarily call it the club donation when people step up and do it as individuals. I certainly did this year because I knew we wouldn't be probably.
Well, I don't want to say that. I don't want to make the same statement, Ron, because obviously I do the thing, but I was thinking that it should come from the club. Like we mentioned John Edge, we've mentioned Bill Carnes. They've all contributed significantly, and they were the first people in line to put money in there. And all I'm suggesting is that we, as a club, Golden Rods and Reels, as individuals, we do ourselves, and I agree with that 100%. But I'm looking that we're environmentally sound, and I think we should be socially bound as well. And I was wondering if the club could provide a donation to they really need help this year.
And has it been a tradition too?
Yes,
I'm not sure of that, Wendy. All I know is that, like as Ron said, that they would people would provide a check, and the people would pick the canned goods up, but we don't have that opportunity any longer. And I'm just thinking of this, like we do a significant amount for the environment, and I'm just saying we should do a significant amount for people.
Yeah,
we all need help. The environment needs help. People need help. Right. And as I say, I have no problem donating myself. I don't tell people who I donate for, but the donations are there. And I was just thinking, it was so sad to see these ladies pushing their little wired baskets, not making eye contact with you. It was pretty sad. Anyways, that's where it stands. If you feel that the club doesn't want to do that, I don't have any problem with that. I just feel that, I've done my part, and I would just like the club to do their part. That's all.
Do we have any comments on that?
Are we suggesting we donate from the legacy fund?
I'm suggesting we donate. Well, I'm just suggesting we make a donation. That's all. I don't, money's money. I don't care. Like, that's what John's job is, to determine where it comes from.
Considering we've got a $900 surplus and that we haven't had to pay rent this year, I think we could take it out of the general fund rather than the legacy fund.
Yeah. So what kind of money, can we have a recommendation or a nomination from the floor for an amount and a proposal?
Well, if it was, say, 50 members and it was $5 a head equivalent, it would be a $250 check. So I would say it's somewhere between 100 and 250 bucks.
Yeah,
I would suggest $200.
$200 sounds good to me.
I second the motion.
Sounds good to me. We
Yeah.
can't donate from the legacy fund anyway. It's not.
So we
mandated.
have, well, I'll talk to John about this afterward and we'll make it happen. So we have a $200 motion from the floor for mustard seeds. Do we all agree? In a show of hands?
Yes.
Not from the legacy fund, that's from general.
No,
correct?
it should
No, that
come,
would be,
it
it's
should
not
come
the
from general
legacy fund.
revenue.
It comes from the general fund, yes,
Yeah.
the operating fund.
Can I
All in
say thank you
favor?
very much?
Okay,
I just got
Yeah.
one more thank you. I don't see John Pierce here today, and you may have already thanked him, but going into next year, not only financially pretty good shape, but very importantly, technologically in good shape. The ability to plug into these meetings by going straight to the website, it's so much different from having to keep track of all these links and calendars and invitations I get. So I'd like to say a big thank you to John Pierce for keeping our software and hardware and zooming along. It's pretty damn impressive. Thank
Yes,
you, John Pierce, an absentee.
Thank you, John Pierce.
yes, there's no
Amen.
question about it. Is from an IT perspective, we're number one. Things happen that normally couldn't happen. We wouldn't have been zooming into each other without John, so.
Yeah,
Mhm.
a lot of times you go on somebody's Zoom message and you can't get on, it doesn't work. This one always works.
I know.
Yeah,
And I've been giving people this click in here, really simple. People that just show an interest in fishing, as you probably do, and it is easy. So the interest and ease. is
I will
there.
follow up with John and pass on our thanks.
Thank you.
So Bob,
Mhm.
Comerford, we're at
Right.
that point now where the nomination of officers for the club.
Well, how many officers do you need?
Well, we need a president, a vice president.
Oh,
a sec-
I mean, I've already got that. I've already got people signed up for that. I mean, so.
No,
if
no,
you-
but just run it, but we still have to
Okay.
have a
Okay.
here's the way it works. We have to have you announce a list of officers, starting at the president, and work your way through, and
Okay.
give the members of the floor an opportunity to nominate or volunteer.
Okay, well,
We
I'll
might have
start.
5 people wanting to be president.
Okay, I'll start. The president, we have Dave Cook has volunteered for another term. The vice president, Tony Otten, he's volunteered for a second term. Mick Collins for conservation has volunteered for a second term. The speaker program, myself, Bob, has volunteered for a second term. Freshwater, Sandy McElroy has volunteered for this year. The social committee, Bill Thomas and myself, Bob, have volunteered for the following year. The Gilly Club, Dennis Gidney has volunteered to continue in that role. The saltwater program, we don't have any volunteers, but I'm.
Hold it,
the
hold
only
it.
saltwater
Have you
fish-
not talked to Ryan?
Well, I don't think Ryan Zooms, so,
Ryan doesn't have Zoom, but he told me that he was interested in the program. I think it's just a simple phone call to him.
okay.
a nice way to keep him connected.
You know, once you phone Ryan, he's gonna phone you get back constantly. I get this from Ron Duncan. Like, that's dangerous.
Don't be using my
Okay, we'll
name
move
in
on.
vain.
Yeah, I'll give
We'll
him
move
your,
on.
yeah, maybe you can be
We'll
the
move on
contact
quickly.
person, Ron.
I bumped into Ryan on the street the other day and he took 20 minutes to have a chat. It's good.
You know, I
Okay.
tolerate that because he's such a nice guy, and when he
Yeah.
speaks from the heart.
He
So
does.
Yeah.
I have
So true.
the same thing, but you know, it's so acceptable when it comes from him. He really means it. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
I think
Okay,
it's
well,
a good
what
idea.
we could do is I can phone him and he can phone me back on the saltwater report for every week, I guess, is what
I
I'll have
think
to
that's
happen.
an excellent idea. I definitely, although it's a challenge, I know I face it too, but it's a way of keeping him engaged, and it's part of the heart of our club.
It's important.
Right.
True.
Ron Duncan, would you be interested in saltwater? You seem to be doing saltwater all the time. You're excellent at it.
No, I think we'll leave it with Ryan. Although he needs some support and encouragement.
Yeah.
I think it's important to leave it with him.
And he does fish more. I think he fishes saltwater more than anyone else does too.
Yeah, he also knows more about it than most of us.
Yeah. And the treasurer, John Francis, has volunteered for another year. So I think that covers it.
No,
Oh,
the
secretary. There's our problem. So
I suggest that John Francis will be the treasurer for the next 10 years.
yeah.
He's doing such an excellent job.
Well, he kind of scares anybody else from volunteering because it looks so complicated.
He's good at it.
Yeah. Anyways, let's go back to the secretary. Now, you had 3 volunteers at least to do it on a divided up by 4.
Yeah,
Did you
well,
get a-
do you remember who volunteered for that?
I was
Ron,
one.
Ron Duncan, you volunteered one session, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Who else?
Bill,
Bill did. Bill Thomas.
yeah, I'll do one.
session?
And didn't John Francis say he'd do one?
I think he did. Okay. John Francis.
We need one more person.
Maybe
And then-
John Pierce would do it for a month.
Yeah, well, what I'm gonna leave it to,
I thought I heard Jim McDonald saying he would do it.
Who?
Yeah, Jim McDonald, you may remember, has done it for 5 years.
well, then you know how to do it.
Exactly, and that's why my name isn't standing forth.
Okay.
And plus the fact that once you go off the Zoom meetings, I will not be available. So that's probably the biggest part.
I told you that we'll probably have a hybrid of
Yeah.
Zoom and that, because I think for
Okay,
those
let me tell you
who,
what I'll do. If you have the hybrid, I will participate in the hybrid. I will participate on the Zoom sessions, but I cannot handle any of I just can't attend any physical meetings.
Right.
And I
Understood.
think we should, celebrate the fact that, Jim has put in so many years, and it's time for the younger people to, I don't mean chronologically, but the newer people in the club to step up, because Jim has paid his dues and he should just be able to enjoy being a long-term honorary member of these meetings.
I don't respect that, Sandy. I'm still looking through 20-year-old eyes. It's my body that's aged. My upper part is still young.
I know that.
anyways, I know that John Pierce probably would help out there, Bob.
Okay. Well, I'll give him a call.
Yeah. Anyways, any other nominees from the floor?
Yes. Dave, can I mention, do we have a membership committee?
It was Bob.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Dennis does the Gilly Club. That was given.
Right. So when we have an executive meeting, are all these people expected to attend the executive meeting?
Well, there's only 4 executive members. All the
No,
others are
no,
directors.
there's not. No, if you look at the Constitution, the bylaws, The executive consists of the 4 officers plus all of the committee members,
Yes.
and they are expected to attend. If we
Committee
want to
heads.
change, if we want to change that, you have to change the bylaws.
Committee chairs.
Right, and so what are the 4 officers? What are that, the president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary?
That's correct.
That's correct.
That is the executive.
No, it's not, Jim. The executive, states clearly in the bylaws, the executive consists of.
Oh, I understand that, Ron, but they're also called directors.
I think even past president sits on that, Ron.
That's correct.
Yep.
Anyways, any proposals from the floor for any of the positions before Bob asks for a vote? Let me get a zoom in here on everybody to make sure.
I would like to nominate Dale for the fresh water since he fishes more than the rest of us.
Dale here?
Yeah, he's here. Would you accept that, Dale?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure what you do, but my problem is I don't hear that well. And sometimes, you know, I'm almost embarrassed because I hear something and I answer questions that are so bizarre to people. But to me, it made sense. So that's my only problem with anything.
Yeah. But you seem to fish the most, Dale. Like you're the most active freshwater fisherman. You're our eyes on the water. So all you have to do is give us your report on what's going on out there.
And not only that, but you're extremely knowledgeable and you're happy to share your knowledge with us. And we really appreciate that.
Dale, can you have a co-chair? Would that be helpful?
Pardon?
If you had a co-chair, would that be helpful for you?
Yeah, maybe. Will this work with your phones plugged into the computer? Maybe that would help.
That's what I do. I have earphones.
Oh, maybe that would solve it. Because
I agree with you. I can't hear through my speaker on the computer either, and that's why I use earphones.
Yeah, and Joachim usually uses headphones himself.
Yeah. See,
Yeah,
Mick's
well, look
got
at
his
Mick.
on.
Mick's got headphones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I can do it.
Give it a try.
Okay, but we really appreciate that, Dale. I think that you do an excellent job.
Way to go, Sandy.
So Sandy, that leaves you open for secretary then.
Oh, God.
You're muted, Sandy.
Sandy's not speaking. Does anybody know that? Notice?
I will put my name as one of the 4 secretaries.
Okay, thanks, Sandy.
Very good.
And just to go back to Dale one more time, I will volunteer to cook the hot dogs for you when you organize a fish out at the lake.
And I will be Ron's sous chef.
So just getting back to the secretaries, who wants to volunteer for the first month in January? Out of the 4 here, and we've got Bill Thomas, Ron Duncan, John Francis isn't here, and Sandy.
I'll do the second month.
I'm starting chemo in January, so I think I'll give a pass on that.
Sandy, you'll do February. Bill,
Sure,
can you do January?
I'll do January, Bob.
Okay.
Just the
So
first.
Ron,
We're not talking about
we
a
put
month.
down for February?
I'll do the first meeting, right?
You'll do the first meeting in January.
Okay.
Okay.
I think the 4 of them should talk about how best they want to do it, whether they want to do 1 per week of the month or whether they want to do the whole month.
Yeah.
I think between the 4 of them, they can figure it out.
I suggest we do a month at a time.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever they want to do.
Well, I'll withdraw my name then, because I'm not going to commit before Tuesdays in a month.
Okay.
Yeah, Bill is,
I suggest that you've come up with 4 names and then leave it to those 4 to get together to figure out how best to cover it. I'm kind of with Bill on that.
That's what I would like to see, because sometimes there's an appointment comes up or whatever.
Yeah.
And if it means that you can't participate, Bill, I have no problem with once a week, doing it 1 week at a time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me
okay,
too.
well, let's,
Yeah, I just found trying to do, every Tuesday was a little too much.
okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So that
weekly.
being said, asked if there's any a nomination to accept those, or any members from the floor that want to volunteer.
Yeah, so with all the members present, accept all the nominations for the committees. Any other people willing to volunteer? So we all accept those nominations? Okay.
Yes.
Aye.
I was absent for about 10 minutes. Somebody,
Oh, yeah.
somebody at the door. Somebody, my brother and his wife.
Barry, you're the new
Driving a
president.
bunch of-
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
I'm sorry. So is there anything that concerned me personally? I mean, I'm doing the legacy thing, but it just happened. Bang, as you started the meeting and started listing off who was doing what, Bob. Company came in the door and brought a bunch of stuff and everything. So I've been cut off for a while, and I'll have to get back in shortly.
Anyways,
Anything
Barry,
concerns
we
me?
basically voted the same people back in for next year.
Yeah, I'm great with that, and I'll do what I can, but things are starting to pile up with me too. Well, I have one quick question while I've got your attention. I have 3 applications for projects, three $1,000 projects, one from John Francis and 2 from on behalf of Mick. Should I leave it till January to bring those forth?
We're in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
middle
you're
of
gonna
a
have to read that.
AGM, so I suggest that you definitely is wait till the new year.
Good enough. That's all I need to hear. Good.
Just a quick note about executive meetings for next year. I used to produce a calendar, say January to June, and then a fall one through the winter. I think if the secretaries could lay out the dates, at least January to July. And if we're going to stick with the executive meeting being the first Tuesday of the month or whatever, that would be helpful. It may not work in January if Bob has a speaker there, but there's been a certain degree of confusion about what dates and days and executive meetings and speaker. So perhaps a list of those dates, and then it helps John Pierce do it for the calendar to actually, lay out that the first Tuesday or whatever is the executive committee. It's really nice to have at least a 6-month trajectory as to what's happening on what dates, and then there won't be any confusion about whether it's a speaker day or an executive day or whatever. Basically, we're meeting 10 months of the year. Thank you, secretaries.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of started that off in the fall by thinking that the executive meeting was the last Tuesday of the month. And now I've got, I think January and February, I think I've got speakers on the first Tuesday of the month, but I'll have to check. If not, we'll try to get consistently the first Tuesday of the month.
So the first date you have a speaker, you said was, you're going to get back to us. I'm just trying to look at the dates calendar. The first, hopefully it's the 11th, not the 4th, because there's still, people are still very much involved in Christmas activities and New Year activities on the 4th. I'd be surprised that the university's back at that time.
Dave, Bob's been
Anyways.
talking away and he's on mute. He's talking again.
Oh,
You're muted, Bob.
I might not even be here myself. I might have to cancel that meeting, that session, or see if we can move it, because I think I'm going to be away myself.
why don't you see if we can move it, and we'll meet the second week of January, which Tuesday, which be the 11th of January.
Okay, I'll get on that this morning.
So note that on your calendars, 11th of January will be our first meeting. Anybody else have any thing they want to discuss or bring up, a new business?
Yeah, just little thing, did we vote on who was elected?
Yeah, we
We
did.
raised our hands.
I had to leave for a quick minute.
Dave, could I ask something?
Sure, go for it.
As I see all these faces here, I know there's just so much experience in all the people in their previous lives as working people and or interests that they're in that we have no idea. And way back in the day, boy, am I aging myself. We used to say when we didn't have a speaker, somebody in the club just stood up and did a little bio. And it was really quite interesting. You got to know your members really well. People could ask questions, etc. I don't know if that sounds.
We
interesting
do
to
approach
anybody, but
members in the club to speak,
what do you
Wendy.
think?
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. We do encourage people from the club to come forward.
I don't think we need a vote. It's all acclamation.
I missed part of that. I didn't hear. I don't know why.
Saying that we don't need a vote, it's all acclamation. All we have to do is declare those positions filled.
We just gave everybody the opportunity to do so, Bill, just in case. To answer your question, Wendy, is we often approach people to speak on different things. And that's a great idea about their former professions. Sometimes when you go on a trip with somebody, you learn about their former profession, what they formerly did in life. And it's very interesting. Had an opportunity to go on a trip with Ron Este, and his even though he's an MD, he's been around the world. He's been in different places. Some of the stuff he's done. Yeah. Very good. Anything else? Well, everybody have a good Christmas and a good New Year, and we look forward to seeing you on January the 11th.
Thanks.
Okay.
Dave.
Merry Christmas to all.
Merry
Merry Christmas,
Very
everyone.
good.
Merry Christmas, guys.
Bye-bye.